Elon Musk has publicly talked about ventures such as building a greenhouse on the Red Planet, more ambitiously, establishing a Mars colony. However, something quite scary is about to happen as NASA is planning to end its partnership with SpaceX, which accounts for 43% to 48% share of SpaceX revenue. There are mainly three reasons for this, that a giant like SpaceX is planning to do so. But before understanding those reasons, it is important to know where SpaceX stands today. On April 17th, when NASA revealed the result of the competition to develop a spacecraft to take astronauts back to the moon, it was clear that Elon Musk's strategy of leveraging economies of scale has passed yet another milestone. In the early days of space exploration, NASA's deals with private vendors were well known, maybe even notorious for the level of detailed instruction they included. Scott Hubbard, chair of the SpaceX Safety Advisory Panel and Stanford University professor, who spent 20 years at NASA, says that the relationship was one where the master control belonged to the NASA people, the civil servants, the engineers, and the smattering of scientists who would, in some cases, dictate the contractor down to the thread size of a screw, adding that it was not much of a partnership. But times have changed. As NASA prepares to return to the moon with SpaceX, industry insiders say the balance of both the cost and risk has shifted toward a private spaceflight company. The Artemis mission to return to the moon is the biggest signal yet that the public space exploration has entered a new age, one where private companies are pushing boundaries and spending billions. In the simplest terms, the Artemis contract is more hands-off than the contracts NASA used to sign. It essentially gives SpaceX a finish line, and it's mostly up to the Elon Musk-helmed company to figure out the best way to get there, Hubbard said. The announcement of the $2.89 billion contract drew attention from around the world, in part because NASA chose a single partner. SpaceX was chosen over defense contractors Dynetics and a team that included Blue Origin, the space company founded by Amazon's Jeff Bezos. NASA had said it would choose two of the three possible contractors, but in the end chose only one. Hubbard said in a phone interview from California that when one is running a big program like NASA, it's always best to select two vendors, two companies, because it provides some inbuilt competition. SpaceX has a strong track record of delivering on NASA's contracts, said Marco Rubin, a NASA engineer in the 1980s who is now Senior Investment Director at Virginia's Center for Innovative Technology. But he added that awarding this partnership to one company makes him a bit nervous, as there's no backup plan in place should SpaceX fail. NASA said the decision was mostly based on cost. After President Donald Trump pushed for the agency to return to the moon, NASA requested about $35 billion in support. The agency said in an additional congressional funding request that strong commercial partnerships would play a big role in the moon mission. The amount spent on the Apollo missions in the 1960s would be at least $150 billion in today's dollars, Hubbard said. The Apollo program stretched into the early 1970s, and its total cost would likely be closer to the equivalent of $300 billion today. That sum makes the $2.9 billion contract awarded to SpaceX seem tiny, but SpaceX is expected to put a significant amount of money toward the mission. The company didn't respond to an interview request for this article. But it's difficult to compare the cost of the Apollo and Artemis programs for a few reasons, say some industry observers and insiders. First of all, the technological breakthroughs have happened since the Apollo missions, Hubbard said. Private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin have internalized the lessons learned from early NASA designs so that they may not have to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. Second, it's difficult to compare contracts under the new partnership with old contracts when NASA owned everything that it was made, said Scott Shackelford, who teaches business law and ethics at Indiana University. What's different this time around is the extent to which NASA is leasing space rather than purchasing these vehicles and platforms outright, Shackelford told Insider via email. He added, this move has the potential to make the cost of the Artemis program much more sustainable than Apollo. Though NASA's decision to preference SpaceX does not mean that all of our eggs are indeed in a single basket. NASA has voluntarily paused the work with SpaceX for Human Landing System, HLS, Option A contract effective August 19th through November 1st. NASA officials wrote in a statement emailed to space.com, in exchange for this temporary stay of work, all parties agreed to an expedited litigation schedule that concludes on November 1st. NASA officials are continuing to work with the Department of Justice to review the details of the case and look forward to a timely resolution of this matter. NASA's Artemis program to return astronauts to the moon is built on partnerships with American businesses as the agency continues the model it established with its commercial cargo and crew programs affiliated with the International Space Station. While astronauts will launch on the agency's own Space Launch System, SLS, Mega Rocket, and Orion spacecraft, NASA wanted to use commercial partner to ferry them to the lunar surface. 3 groups submitted proposals to fill that role: SpaceX, Dynetics, and the so-called national team led by Blue Origin. Many expected NASA to select 2, as it did for the space station contracts. Meanwhile, Congress allotted significantly less money for the program than NASA had requested, $850 million compared to more than $3 billion. So NASA only awarded 1 contract, and only to SpaceX, which had made the smallest bid and planned to adapt its already in the works Starship vehicle and Super Heavy booster for the job. Blue Origin and Dynetics promptly asked the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, to review NASA's decision, forcing a pause on the project. That office on July 30th announced that it would let the selection stand. 2 weeks later, Blue Origin brought the issue to the Court of Federal Claims. The suit marks another delay in the process that NASA presumably hoped would unfold smoothly. The agency's Artemis schedule was already ambitious. Less than a year after its announcement, COVID-19 swept the globe, forcing the government and companies alike to halt on-site work. Other vital pieces of the program have also faced delays. NASA's SLS rocket's crucial Green Run test series ran slow, and the final installment required 2 attempts. Meanwhile, NASA's Office of Inspector General released a report arguing that NASA's lunar spacesuits could not be ready before April 2025. President Donald Trump's administration established a 2024 deadline, and when President Joe Biden took office, many wondered whether the new administration would delay the program. But throughout the presidential transition and the confirmation of Biden's selection for NASA Administrator, former Florida Senator Bill Nelson, the agency has continued to say that it would attempt to meet the ambitious date provided Congress funded the program sufficiently. NASA is committed to Artemis and to maintaining the nation's global leadership in space exploration, agency officials wrote in a statement. With our partners, we will go to the moon and stay to enable science investigations, develop new technology, and create high-paying jobs for the greater good and in preparation to send astronauts to Mars. NASA halts human moonlander work with SpaceX amid Blue Origin lawsuit. NASA must again stop work on its human moonlander partnership with SpaceX due to a lawsuit from Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, further risking the agency's tight timeline to return astronauts to the moon. In mid-April, NASA announced that SpaceX would build the Human Lander System, HLS, which will ferry astronauts from the lunar orbit to the surface for the Artemis 3 mission due to fly in 2024. But since the decision, NASA has spent just weeks working on the partnership due to repeated objections from Blue Origin, which also competed for the contract. After an independent government agency rejected Blue Origin's first complaint about the contract, the company sued NASA in the Court of Federal Claims, which exclusively hears cases against the U.S. government. On August 13th, the agency has now agreed to pause the project for 2.5 months in exchange for resolving the lawsuit by the end of that window. NASA's Artemis program to return astronauts to the moon is built on partnerships with American businesses as the agency continues the model it established with its commercial cargo and crew programs affiliated with the International Space Station. While astronauts will launch on the agency's own Space Launch System SLS mega rocket and Orion spacecraft, NASA wanted to use a commercial partner to ferry them to the lunar surface. Do you think the partnership between NASA and SpaceX has come to an end? What do you think is the cause of this new development? Let us know your thoughts by leaving a comment in the section below. Thanks!